Hey guys, it is 2.2, step 1, using a Marxist literary lens that we're on, and here's the video. Our learning objective is students will be able to read chapter 2 and analyze Of Mice and Men using a Marxist lens. So we're going to talk about Marxism in this video and how the heck it has anything to do with literature. So let's back up first and talk about literary lenses. There is something in literature that we call literary lenses, also known as literary theories. And what I want you to do is to imagine that you put on a pair of glasses in order to read the text. And maybe the glasses are kind of purpley like this pair, or they're blue, or they're pink, or they're yellow. Whatever it is, whatever color it is, it's going to make everything you see through it look different, right? So think of that when you think of a literary lens. Let me give you the definition of what it is. Literary lenses, also called literary theories, are different ways of looking at the deeper meaning in literature. Literary lenses are like glasses because they change the way we see things. And there are tons of different literary lenses, literally hundreds of them. There's all kinds of different ways to look at literature. In this unit, we are going to be studying 3 of them, just 3. But these 3 are really important, and they are 3 literary theories that really changed the way people started thinking about the world when the theory, before it was attached to literature, was first created. And so for this first unit, we're going to talk about the Marxist lens. Okay, it's a way of looking at literature through a certain lens, specific way. So let's talk about Marxist theory. First of all, Marxist theory comes from this guy, Karl Marx. He was a German scholar, and he lived from 1818 to 1883. My guess is you've heard him before. You've heard that name, Karl Marx, or Marxist, or Marxism. And it predates, well, in the 1800s, he came up with an idea that, you know, everything we're doing is based on how much money we have and how much power we have. And so for this lens, it's a social class, a lens of social class and social power. And he came up with the theory of Marxism in the 1800s, which was a social, political, and economic theory that really examines problems with capitalism. And he says in his theory that capitalism isn't fair. Eventually, the people who are doing all of the work, the working class, are going to rebel against the people in power. So that's kind of Marxism in a nutshell. He's looking at social class and who has power. So let's dig in a little bit deeper. He says in his theory that there really are 3 classes, okay? The first class is the proletariat. And this is just the normal people working 9 to 5, paying their bills, living paycheck to paycheck. They don't have anything fancy, and they're probably working under a lot of different bosses. It's probably like most of us. The next group of people are the bourgeois. These are the rich folks. This is where that word bougie comes from, that you guys use. If somebody's kind of fancy, they're bougie, right? It comes from this French word bourgeois, people with money, people who are rich, people who are probably telling other people what to do. And then the third class that Marx recognized was the aristocracy. These are the powerful and rich folks. I've got like the Queen of England and her family up here, but you could just as easily put some of the people who are in political power in this image as well. There are some key ideas in Marxism that I want to share with you briefly. first of all, Marx says we have to pay attention to the material conditions. So how much money we have, how big our house is, how nice our car is, in order to achieve positive social change. Because if we look at those things, we'll see that some people have nicer things than others. And that is where the power to change, specifically by the proletariat or the working class, uprising against the powerful bourgeois and aristocracy, comes into play. The class structure is built on the oppression of workers, according to Marxism. And so it is not fair because the workers have the burdens. They suffer the worst life and have to work the hardest, and in the end have the smallest gain from the work that they do. And so that is all the wealth, he said, that the bourgeois and the aristocracy have is built by the workers. Classes are in conflict is another key idea, and eventually the proletariat will revolt. There will be a revolution against those in power. The central questions of Marxism are who has the power. And so when you're reading chapter 2, think about this. Who has the power on this Soledad farm and who doesn't? Who benefits the most if their work is successful or if the effort that the workers make is accepted? Is it the workers themselves or is it somebody else? Which class does the work claim to represent? Is it saying that it's really the work of someone higher than the laborers? And what values does it reinforce or subvert? Reinforce, what values does it say, yeah, these are good values, and what values does it say, those are bad? Okay, so those are the key questions. And now I want you to think about this. Marx comes to the coup. If you are thinking about Cooper now instead of mice and men, who would be the proletariat? Who would be the bourgeois? And who would be the aristocracy? Here are some possible words you can use. You're not going to use all of these because you're just going to use 3, but you get to pick. Maybe you're going to say the freshmen are like the proletariat. Maybe you're going to say bus drivers are like the proletariat, or just students in general are like the proletariat. But then your job is to explain why. Because they, and go back earlier in the slide, what did I say about the proletariat? What did I say about the bourgeois? What did I say about the aristocracy? All right, so your job is to finish number 7 by labeling these and then finishing the sentence for each. And then you're going to move on to step 2, which is to read chapter 2, pages 17 to 37. There's some questions. There's 7 questions about that chapter. And then for the should do, there are some more questions about Marxism. In the end, you guys are going to interpret the book through one of the 3 lenses that we work through. So it's important that you understand all 3. All right, enjoy chapter 2.